What do you think are the traditional stigmas that exist that prevent people from embracing something like the natural method today in 2026? All right. Hey, Gaspard, how's it going?
Very well. Thank you, Brian. And
Doing good. I can't complain. I mean, the only thing here is the heat in Miami. Obviously, it's like really hot over here. What's the weather like in France?
it's starting to be really hot as well. The
Wow.
summer is coming.
When does your summer start?
Well, in 1 month.
So, Gaspard, I really wanted to have this conversation with you because I wanted to take the time to introduce our community to the newest TI, to the family. For those of you who are not aware, Gaspard is a level 3 trainer based out of France, and he's going to be essentially leading the show out there. So, for anybody who hasn't met you, I'm really curious about your journey. So, how did you get into natural movement as a whole?
Well, first of all, I've got a background of conventional sportman. I did a lot of things during my childhood and my youth, as tennis, climbing, running, athleticism, even handball, football, rugby, volleyball. I did a lot of things. Yeah, large experience of sport. I have always been passionate about sport. But in 2020, I created a Montessori school with colleagues in France, and I was in charge of the practical activities and physical education. I started with conventional sport with the teenagers, but quite quickly I found out it was not enough for me in terms of physical education. So I've been looking for other ways to do physical education. And at that time, I found the team that was developing the natural method of physical education in France, a family called Huguet du Lorrain. But it was a COVID period, so they were canceling their trainings. But I was really motivated to do it anyway, so I called them. Well, they sent their son at the school I was working in, and we did a first training of the natural method of physical education, also called Hébertism.
Yeah, it's based off of George Hebert's work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He happens to be, I think you told me, the grandson, right? Or the great-grandson?
Well, no, that's not the same family.
Not
It's
yet.
another family that
Okay.
have been working with the great son of George Hebert.
Okay.
Well, it's a whole story.
Yeah. Continue.
So we came to the school and we studied and practiced the natural method for 3 days with the teenagers. And it's been quite a revelation for me because I didn't know the natural movement at all at that time. I only did sports, and well, it's quite different actually. It was a real revelation for me. We started at school to do only the natural method of physical education with the teenagers. And I gotta say, yeah, it's been quite an immediate success with them. We practiced it for almost 3 years in the school. For me, yeah, it was a perfect solution for physical education. I mean, it's a wonderful method.
Nice.
I just got really passionate about natural movement, and I studied and practiced more and more from that time. I also started to work with a team in France. A few years later, I'm an instructor of natural method in France, and we are organizing trainings everywhere. We are going to schools to give trainings to the educators in the schools. We've got a special offer for that, which is working quite well. The results with the kids are really amazing. We are also organizing summer camp. We are living in nature with families, with people from everywhere in France, all ages, all physical levels mixed up together. We are just sharing a simple life in nature, and it's very nice. We are practicing natural movement every day and doing some parkour in the woods. Yeah, that's another topic which is really interesting, but living a natural movement on a larger scale is really nice as well.
Nice, incredible.
Yeah. So now it's been a few years. I'm doing this a lot in parallel, if you can say this in English.
Yeah, in parallel.
I discovered MovNat in 2023 at the Biarritz. Here you can see the Biarritz training with Jérôme. We had a really nice training. We had a really nice group as well in a beautiful location in France. And it's been, again, a revelation for me, discovering MovNat and that approach of natural movement, which is very accurate for the actual needs, because the natural method is now 100 years old. So there are things to adapt to the people.
To modern
that are-
society.
yeah, sure. And MovNat did that work. So it added a lot of really interesting tools and skills to my background. It's been a very nice training with Jérôme. And then I did the level 3 in Vienna in 2024 with Bernd. And again, a very nice group experience, closer to what I know from natural method, because we were more in the woods, running.
Yeah, awesome.
And
That's such a unique way of getting into the natural method and natural movement as a whole, because generally most people start as like, childhood, and they remember these times playing outside without rules, without regulations, without when you were able to approach something and figure it out by yourself, right? If I was playing manhunt with my friends outside and I was running away and I didn't want to get caught and there was a picnic table in front of me, I would just jump up the picnic table and jump down and continue running. And then we stop doing that, and then we get into these suburban jungles, and then we start working out in gyms in isolation and looking good in the mirror, and then our body starts to hurt and ache, and then we're like, man, what's going on? And then we discover this idea of, well, just move like you were designed to inherently move, and have all this variety and variability and this exposure to nature, and let nature be the teacher, or all these different things, and you do this full circle. But yours is interesting because your approach was not one of selfishness. It was an approach of, how can I teach the youth that I work with? How can I foster them into a much better, healthier physical state? And that's unique. I don't think I think you're the only person I've ever met that has approached natural movement from the idea of, I want to help the people I'm in charge of, that I'm forced to steward. And you're also the one of the only other people I've ever met that has gotten it directly from the source, right? Juan wrote a huge article about what was the thing that helped create MovNat and what were its origins. And he talks heavily about George Hubert and some of the other things that brought the method to place. Because, this one is very technical, and they have all these techniques. And I agree with you. It's different, right? Because L1 and L2 is really manipulated to how you can do this natural light, right? So it's not as in the woods, as in the nature. It's like you can adjust this to being inside of a gym. And you could do this in a space that's covered. It's not until you get to L3, exactly what you said, where it's similar to what you've been experiencing since 2020. So that's really cool. So a lot of sports, but let me ask you a question. When you were doing those sports, what was your fitness routine? Was it indoors? Was it like traditional strength and conditioning? Was it traditional weightlifting? Or did you not really do that kind of stuff? You just relied on sport?
I just practiced sport. I never really trained in another way. I never did any kind of fitness. I never trained inside, really. I've been raised in the open countryside in France, always outdoors, so I don't really stand being too much inside. I can do it, but I mean, it's not something I'm used to. So no fitness at all.
Wow, you're like a wild child, a modern day Tarzan. A modern day Tarzan. That's really like an incredible experience. So let me ask you a question now. What are the things you would recommend to people who are on the fence about getting into natural movement? Or what do you see? Let's start with this easier question. What do you think are the traditional stigmas that exist that prevent people from embracing something like the natural method today in 2026?
Well, there are different things, but I think one of the main resistance would be that it can appear a bit far from what we know in terms of cultural habits. It's not in our culture to do the natural movement and to practice like what we can see when we see people doing natural movements. So first of all, I think it seems a bit odd if we don't get the motivation to just start. It could be one thing.
I agree with what you said there, that it's definitely a bit odd, because the moment you tell somebody to crawl, they're like, what am I doing? Or even like some of the techniques to climb on a fixed object, like a hand swing up or something like that. They're like, so I get that a lot, like, because I train without chain. If I'm indoors in a facility, I'm primarily doing natural movement stuff, right? Like MovNat stuff. I'm doing like hand swing ups and roll ups and crawling on the floor, and people are always looking at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? It's not the only thing I do. I have sandbags at the gym, and I pick them up and I throw them on my shoulder and I walk around. But I think that's always been like the biggest hurdle for somebody to overcome. And I think that stems from the disassociation of what the purpose of movement is. right? When you look at like
Yeah.
traditional functional fitness, it's like, I'm deadlifting.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, cool. Why? I'm deadlifting to get stronger. It's never, I'm deadlifting to be able to take something from point A to point B, right? Or why are you
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
pull-ups? Why are you doing pull-ups? Oh, because I want to work out my biceps and my back. And it's like, okay, can you get on top of that? Why would I ever need to get on top of that? You know, it's like this weird thing. Like, why
Yeah.
would I ever need to get on? So I see where you're coming from when you said that it's a bit odd, right? It definitely is. It can be odd for somebody to try and get into it. So how do you take the time to introduce somebody who's never been experienced to natural movement? Do you start them outdoors? Do you start them indoors? How do you introduce this idea or concept to somebody?
Well, it depends on the people. For people living in cities, I mean, I can propose to start indoors. I did it in Paris already. And yeah, we are just working on the ground because they are not used to
The
get up
floor.
and sit down anymore. And that's a really good addition to the natural method from the MovNat method. All those
Get-ups.
exercises on the ground.
Yeah, the get-ups and all the floor positions. That's like my favorite
Yeah.
thing to start with anybody. Let
Yeah.
me give you a hypothetical. Let's say you met me before I was introduced to natural movement. I'll give you a background on my thing. I definitely played a lot of sports
Yeah.
growing up, primarily not as many sports as you did. I literally only played soccer, badminton, and I did the swim team. That was it. Those were the three sports that I played.
What was the third one?
Swimming.
Oh, swimming.
Swimming. Those were the three sports, and primarily I was a soccer player from like 4 years old till I was about 18 years old. I never, other than that, all my training was indoors, right? I would typical bench press, typical this, all the way up until I was in my 20s. And then the other thing was mixed martial arts, right? So I did grappling and mixed martial arts a little bit when I was younger, up until I was like in my 20s, and then I stopped. I wouldn't start
Yeah.
again till I was in my 30s. And I came up to you and I was interested in the natural method and I wanted to do it outdoors. But I'm not a person who's ever been in the outdoors. Like, what are your biggest, like, okay, how do I make this happen and how do I engage him enough to where he's gonna enjoy himself? Because, you know, for me, after childhood, when I became an adult and I stopped playing sports, the thought of touching grass was only like, I'm gonna get itchy. You know, that was it. It's like, oh, I'm going to get itchy. You know, I don't want to touch the grass because I'm going to get itchy, you know?
I think one key for that, which is really important in the natural method, is practicing in group, large group. So we could go outside in a park, for example, like it's not really far from what you are used to. It's in a city, there is grass, there are trees. It's a start, you know, to just start with something a bit different, but not too much. And we would do it on a large group in order to get the
peer pressure.
How do you say? Emulation?
The emulation. I like it.
Yeah. Well, with the natural method, we are using a lot of imagination stories. We are telling stories in MovNat as well. But in the natural method, it's part of the basic process. We are telling stories in order to create a special mood, you know, and to get people into the story, and they don't do the exercises without knowing what they do. They just do them because it's part of the story. And we have to face a danger. We have to pass through an obstacle. We have to climb into a tree because of something is going on. So it creates a whole mood that is helping a lot. And it creates an emulation that is just giving you a different strength and a different motivation. It's becoming a game at some point, and usually everybody is just getting on board and doing stuff they were not thinking they could do it, but they just do it and they start to enjoy it because it's part of the game. It allows to be part of the group. When you start to move with your body in a natural way, the joy, the strength is just appearing naturally, spontaneously. So it doesn't take long time for people to enjoy it and be part of the process. And at the end, they are just like, whoa,
a new person.
What just happened?
Yeah, they're a new person. What you're doing is hitting the mindset and then the infection of emotion, right? Once everybody becomes emotionally involved, it spreads in a beautiful way. That's amazing. Okay, another question. What is your favorite thing to teach? If you had to pick a particular technique or a particular concept, like if it's body weight shift and transfer, or it's a muscle up, or vaulting, what's your favorite thing to teach and why?
Well, it's not an easy question for me because I'm not someone who specializes a lot. So I always like, I mean, everything. I'm just, and it's hard for me to, the hardest thing for me is to get into something really precise. I do it, but I like all the families. I mean, it's, yeah. But I could say that I've got two families that I like a lot, underestimated. I think somehow they are throwing and balancing.
Nice.
I just love them. Yeah, usually we underestimate what we can do with throwing and balancing, and it's just so powerful when it's well done in terms of physical education, but also just the development of consciousness of yourself, the others, the world around you. It's very powerful. So that will be the two families. Yeah, like this, I don't have any particular techniques.
Nice, but throwing and balancing are great though, because balancing is the easiest looking thing to do from the lowest output, right?
Yeah.
If I told somebody to stand on one leg, they look at you and they say, that's easy. And then they go to do it and they can't. It's like, that's one of the wide opening things for them where they're like, wait a minute, I can't balance anymore? When did that happen? Because, you know, they think they can because they walk. Right? You lose a step every time. But the moment they have to consciously stop everything they're doing and balance, you see all the different things, right? The life obstacles that are in their mind that are disrupting them from being mindful and internal with themselves, right? The distractions of the outside world. You have somebody balance, and the next thing you know, they're thinking about the meeting they have to have at 3 o'clock, and then they start to fall and they're like, oh, I'm losing focus, you know? And then when you watch that develop and you watch their balance improve and they can start to be there without thought, you know, it's almost autonomic. And then when you get them to balance walk, and then you get them to like lateral traverse on the balls of their feet, or when they start to balance at height, you know, that initial apprehension. You know, I had it. You know, the first time I had to balance at height, you know, you're up there, your foot gets on the bar and you're getting ready to push yourself up, and then you're like, oh no, you know, and you start to realize how comfort has made you sensitive to danger, right? Gaspard, this was a great conversation. I'm really excited for people to interact with you from everywhere. And how does somebody interact with you? How do they reach out to you?
Well, they can write me an email. I think it's the easiest way.
So send you an email. Your email's on the MovNat webpage. Do you have social media? And then you have some workshops coming up, if I'm not mistaken. So what dates are those workshops? And where are those workshops?
Because I'm living near Bordeaux in France, there will be two workshops in beginning of June and beginning of July in Bordeaux.
Nice.
And then I will go to Paris in mid-July, the 18th and 19th, to do two workshops at different time. I'm working on it, but I will propose some workshop in Quebec because I will be in Quebec for 1 month in August. So I will do workshops in Montreal and maybe in Sutton as well. It's not far from Montreal, but it's a very nice natural spot.
Are you going to be able to make it out for the L3 in Wisconsin? I know you talked to me about it before. Are you going to be able to swing by it on your way out of those workshops down into Wisconsin?
Yeah, apparently it's working. I checked all the planes and it must be, it should be working from Montreal.
That's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. We already have a couple of L3 alumni that are going to be there, and some people signed up, and it's going to be on Rock's property. It's like 40 acres. Have you seen the stuff he's been building? He's been building all of these natural obstacles that look incredible. If you go on his Instagram, he's got like these incredible obstacles that he's been building, which I think it's going to be pretty remarkable. I think Arwan is going to show up for a couple of days. He's not going to be there for the whole event, but I think he'll be there for a couple of days. Diana's teaching it. Rock is teaching it. I'm really excited when you get all these workshops done. What I'm really excited for is when you host your first like full-on level 1 and level 2 event. And then if somebody goes to France, where's the place that they got to go? Where's the place they got to see? What's the best place to go to if you go to France?
You mean to
visit?
To do
I'm a tourist. I'm coming to France. It's my first time. Where's the place that you have to visit?
Wow, it's a tough question because France, it's like 40 different countries in one country. It's just so different from south to north, east to west. Depends on what you like. It's just so different. But I grew up in the south. I like the south. There are some natural landscapes in the south that are just amazing. If you like nice cities, you can go to Bordeaux, Paris, Lyon as well. There are mountains that are incredible. The Pyrenees in the south are just incredible if you like to hike. Yeah, there are just so much possibilities. It's a nice country for that.
Amazing, amazing. All right, well, Gaspard, it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Me too.
I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you. You too, Baran.
No worries.
See you.